Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to my studio. It's great to have you here today, and I'm going to be painting these beautiful lilacs today. And a couple of weeks ago I did a lesson painting the lupine flower, and I had a gradation of sort of a warm sunset color in the background, and I, for some reason or another, didn't post that part of the painting. So today I'm going to start off this painting with that sort of sunset kind of coloring for the purple lilacs to go on. So you kind of will learn two things in one. You'll learn the sunset and background, and also you'll learn how to paint with the Catalyst Wedge tool the lilacs. So I hope you stick around and watch this video. It's going to be a lot of fun. I've got out my paint and I'm ready to go. So let's just paint. Alrighty, so to start off with, I'm going to give my canvas a little spritz with this, just my spritzer bottle. And then I'm going to take a little, to make that sunset color, I'm just going to take a little white, and my palette is a little messy so it had some paint in it, but don't worry, we'll get there. And I'm going to start off by mixing some primary red, and I'm using all Liquitex Basics paint. So primary red with just some cad yellow, little cad yellow medium, and they're all Liquitex, and I've got a list that links you to Amazon to get all those colors if you want. And then I'll mix another little pile of the same, but I'm adding more yellow and a little more white. So we're gonna get that nice, you know, sunset kind of color. And it's funny because I was painting those wildflowers, and you know, I mixed this up because it's kind of more of an outdoor scene, but similar, you know, colors to this. So I thought, why not just use that? And I'm also gonna put a little bit of this glazing medium because it's a retardant. Let me just open this up here. This gloss glazing medium. I'm going to add a little bit of that to each puddle if I can get it to open. Nope, it's not going to cooperate. Okay, there we go. So I added a bit of that into the paint because it works as a retardant. So I put a little bit of each, a bit of it in each puddle, and then I'll start going here. So I'm going to use this to apply the paint nice and evenly across. You can see it works a little quicker than a brush. And I'm not going to worry about getting it perfect because the flowers are going to go on there, and it's just going to look, I like things to be more painterly, so I don't mind that I see brush strokes. I know some people want to blend skies to death when they paint them, and I'm just more of a, I guess you call it impressionist painter. And so I'm not too worried about it having some different variety in the brush stroke there. So now I'll go with that lighter, the darker, I mean pink, kind of pink mix there. It's also a little warmer, so if you're thinking technically a bit, you gotta have that, it'll give it a nice effect to have that warm paint in the back, like in the foreground, I mean, going up to that cooler, you know, lighter color in the distance. If you were doing a landscape where you put the, like if you think of the lilac painting or the wildflower paintings as a landscape, you're thinking warmer in the foreground and cooler in the distance. That's just kind of a rule of thumb for landscape, even though we're kind of painting a still life in a way today. So just get that on there. And Then we're gonna let that dry. So I'll leave that for a minute. Whoopsies, knocking my paint over here. We'll leave that for a minute and then we're gonna come back. All right, so now that we've got this undertone, and I used the Liquitex Basics for that, the alizarin, or sorry, the dioxazine purple. So I used dioxazine purple for that right here. Okay, so I've mixed a few puddles of paint here using the dioxazine purple, and I used a bit of this light blue permanent in with, and I added white to all this. So all these have white mixed in. This is the magenta with white. This is the, I've got the dioxazine purple, and I also have this other purple right here, and I'll put this in the description, deep violet. So that made this with some white. And because the lilacs have some blues and everything in them, I added, to dull some of these colors, I added a bit of this light blue permanent. So it's kind of a neat color, and I'll put that in the description. So anyhow, what I want to do now that I used my palette knife to mix those, but I'll go back to my spatula. I'm just cleaning it off here. And I'm going to start adding some of the lighter flowers in, and then I'll use some of this lighter paint to add some of the highlights to the dark underpaint that I got there. So I think for the purple, somewhere between this one and this one here, we can try them out. And now I'll use the corner of my brush just to create those little kind of petals. So you can see I'm leaving the underpaint there, and I'm just putting on some of those different colors like that. And creating those shapes. I'm not worried so much about it coming out exact. And I want to block in some of these lighter flowers. Before I get too keyed into those details, I want to get the light purple, purpley blue in there. So I'm going to block in those, just do a solid block in the way I did the other ones. So I'm just kind of filling in now those spots that I drew in, and I want to make sure to keep some of these negative shapes because I really like those sky holes to show through and kind of show that the sunset color I painted in earlier for you. So it's a 2-for-1 lesson today. You learn how to kind of do a little bit of a gradation for the sky, and also a really simplified background for beginners and anyone who just wants to have fun with the paint. It's a great way to start, because then you have, there's something fun about that gradation in the background, rather than just doing a solid underpaint and then, you know, being done with it. You kind of have something going on there that's a little more interesting. At least I think so. And so make sure to leave those sky holes there. And okay, so I'm going to put lighter paint on these already. Compared to these, they're light, but this is the underpaint for those. So I'll be adding lighter highlights to those kind of light lavender color flowers. So for now, I'm going to start adding more paint, this kind of purpley color, to bring up the lilacs here. Make sure to leave some of this shadow color down here, and we'll go in and we'll add darker petals to that, but I want to make sure you leave the shadows because that's what gives you that dimension when you paint. So you want to leave some of that in the shadows. And I don't want my marks to all be completely separated and then have, you know, it looked like too polka dotted of a painting. So I'm going to just kind of block in a little quicker, and then I don't have time to sit and think too hard about all the different leaves. And it keeps it looser. If you start painting all the different little petals, it just starts to look too much with that kind of, it just looks like too many dots everywhere. So we're going to go back and not to worry about what's showing through there, because we're going to go back with a lighter value yet and bring it up a notch too. Okay, so while you got that, you might as well, I can use some of this lighter pink for the highlight. I thought that would look kind of nice in some of the spots, just to add some variety. Just kind of test that out. And then I'm gonna go and get some white and put that into that lavender pile and get the highlight for the, and I might add a little bit of that blue in there just to get a little bit of that real light color for the these lighter ones. And get some more white. Oops. Try to make sure I get that paint mixed. So you're just kind of adding a little bit of a lighter mix. I might use a little bit more of that light blue just to get some real vibrant brush strokes in there. And okay, so now I'm going to go back. I'm going to wipe off this catalyst tool. You want to wipe it off clean because we're going to just go and add some more of that purple into the shadows, a little bit thicker now. And also, because I've already got my background on, I can put in some of those side marks to show some of the, you know, the side of the edge of those little petals. So now that dark area is starting to look now I'm going to add more petals here. It's starting to really develop, you know, the light and the dark. That one's going off the page. And I like the little bits of light that show through the flowers. That's really, that is a really good thing. Okay, so now I'm going to just go back and add a bit more. I've got that mid-tone purple. I'm just going to keep it simple and add a little more white to that, so you're just kind of bringing up the value a little bit more. And I'm going to go back to the corner of my brush and start I'm adding some different marks too, like I'm adding some of the side edges of the flower as well. So you just got to kind of load your brush up a little different. So if you run out of paint, just go back and make sure you got more on there. And to get it a little lighter, I'm going to add a little bit of that pink to that purple mix just to really get a few lighter marks in there. And you can make one or two really stand out. You know, you could just sort of put a few flowers, you know, make them more obvious that they're kind of that lilac shape, just a couple, so it kind of keeps it abstract, but also kind of keeps it that you can see what it is a bit. But you can tell by the overall shape of the flowers too that they're lilacs. Now I'm going to go and get some of that. That's the primary red and some of the white, and make a little bit of a pink mix that's a little brighter. And gotta add more white to that. You do get used to using this really quickly. It just takes practice, so don't lose heart if you give it a try and it doesn't work out perfect the first time around. Need to get a little more white in there. Let's add some real bright highlights to the flowers there. So just kind of going back over those other brush strokes. Now I'm looking at the shadow color and I'm thinking I'm gonna add a little bit more, just something so it's not just purple. So I'll get some of that dioxazine purple, and I'm going to mix a little bit of that light blue into it, or maybe this a little cobalt as well. So you can see it's not the same. It's got more of the same kind of tone, but it's got something else going on, just to add a little variety in the shadows. I'm going to put some of those marks in. You can add a little bit of some of that blue mix to kind of get a few you can see it just adds a little bit more interest in the shadow. And I'll use that to put a few more details here on the edges. I gotta add a few little petals, kind of I call them the side angle, side view petals there. Using some of the lighter pink for the side angle petals up here. Okay, so now I can go back and I'm going to go and look at the the lighter flowers that I've got in there, and I want to add something to really lighten those ones up. So I'm getting my white, which is this big jar, and I got to kind of restock the white on my palette there so that I can make some highlights, because I ran right out of white there. So got white. I'm going to go into that mixture, that kind of violet mixture, and I now have a lighter shade for those flowers up here. You can even add some of that bright blue. And same thing, I want to put a few of those little side angle petals in there as well. Okay, so I think that looks good so far. I'm going to spritz that palette to keep it, kind of keep it alive while we do the greens. So I'm going to get wipe my little spatula brush off quickly, and I'm just going to go and get some of this green that I've got out here in my messy palette, and I'll mix up some of that green. So I'm mixing some sap and some yellow, and to dull the green, oh my goodness, there you go, abstract art. To dull the green, I'm gonna use a bit of that burnt sienna, so it's just not so strong. So I'm gonna put that down so I don't wreck my thumb holding that up. And I'm just gonna start by following, I've got my kind of the lines I drew earlier, and I'm just gonna put some of those brush strokes in there. I'll try drawing the lines, some lines with the wedge, and see if I can do it. So you need to scoop the paint so that it gets on the edge of the wedge. And same with over here. Go back and scoop some more paint on there. And you can put some of those stems going into the green. And then we got these beautiful leaves coming, dangling down here. Mostly they're beautiful because then I don't have to worry about the vase. So I'm just going to put those in there. And I'm just going to lift this off. Well, I'll try to squeeze one in here. Okay. I'll get some plain old sap right off my canvas, off my palette there, to kind of darken in some of those marks. And the beauty is I don't have to go back and do anything if I don't want to the background. So with the leaves, just kind of pick a few, and you know, I'm just connecting those ones in a bit more so there's no and then I'm going to pop a few up here. And that one got some pink in there, but we can kind of go back over it. Okay, so now, oh, and I want to put a stem in this sky hole here just because I like that. Kind of like that effect, and then also a stem or two going off there. Okay, well, I like that, and I'm just gonna go now and I'm gonna add some of the cad, something lighter like this cad yellow into the mix to get something lighter for a highlight, and then I could use a little bit of that white in there, just get something a little lighter. So I used sap and cad yellow light, and that made that, and some burnt sienna. I mixed that for the flower, and now I'm gonna add a little highlight here and there. So I'm loading up my brush, and I'm kind of just picking some lighter spots. Gonna add a little more white to that, and just kind of add a few highlights here and there. And if you can add a few random you could add a little highlight to the stem. Might even add a little lighter highlight here and there. Might even add a little bit of green up here. And same with here. Kind of drag some of that off a little so it's a little more abstract. Even go up a notch with add a little more white and a little more cad yellow light there, and just sort of go up a notch on some of those highlights. Okay, so I really like how that turned out, and it's kind of an example that you can use when you're going to go and say you wanted to do hydrangeas. You can watch my other videos I have on hydrangeas on my channel. So if you've already subscribed, go look at those. And if not, make sure to subscribe and check some of those out. You can also switch to I was using the catalyst the whole time, but say you want to add a few more details, you could switch to like your palette knife and just get a few real quick and easy highlights there and just sort of keep going. And it's really about enjoying what you're doing, because you're only going to want to get better and keep going if you enjoy it. And So this is just a fun way to kind of do something different and try some different paint applications. Also, if you get used to doing it this way and you go back, it will probably really improve your regular painting skills, because now you've had to be kind of stuck with not being able to do all the details. So you will let go and be able to, you know, go at with a brush, you'll be able to go at it a lot, you know, easier. So going back over at the end there, and you can see I'm just kind of adding a few real bright highlights here. I'm having fun with this with my little palette knife. So you could just keep playing with this stuff for hours, but I'm going to let you give it a try now, and I hope that you enjoyed that. I really did. And I'll just take this off here, and there you go. So I look forward to teaching you all in the next video. Thank you so much for watching. All the thick paint.